Hello everybody, it's me GhostCritic. I've got a question of the week for you. It's Monday after all, so I have a comic book related question for you. And then once I'm done doing that, I will answer your questions you posed to me last week. And then I'll give you the opportunity to ask me questions, which I'll answer in next week's video. Simple as that. This week I was thinking about us comic book collectors as archaeologists. Instead of finally combing an archaeological dig, we are rooting around car boot and garage sales. Instead of opening a long forgotten tomb, we are opening the door to charity shops and antique stores, hoping to find some unfound treasures. So I wanted to ask you lot this week, what was your last archaeological comic book find that really stood out for you? If you're not the kind of person that buys all the back issues and you're just reading the current stuff, what was the last find of a comic book that you thought, wow, this is great stuff? And I want to let everyone know as well. So you can use the question that way as well. So what was your last best archaeological comic book find? And so on to the questions that you asked me last week. And anyone whose question gets answered and they have videos here on YouTube, I'll put a link to their channel in the description bar below. Don't forget to expand it so you can see all of them. And of course you get your name shouted out on the video. This week we kind of got a mixed bag. Some people didn't really follow the rules of a comic book related question, but at this point of the game, I don't care. You're asking questions, you're getting involved, and I really appreciate that. And with that said, let's go straight to Joshua Hayes, our Bat Josh. He asked, tacos, soft shell or hard shell? You know what, I don't even think I've ever even eaten a taco, but I will say this, I would probably go for the soft shell. I don't really like crunchy stuff that you fill with, because it cracks, it breaks, and it all goes all over the place. At least with something soft, you can kind of hold it and keep it in its little parcel, and keep noshing down on it. Josh, really? Thanks anyway, mate. Ryan C asked, if there was one Kirby concept or character that you think the New 52 could relaunch without ruining him, her, it, what would it be? Now, I'm sure there's plenty of anti-New 52 people out there that would probably say they'd ruin it anyway. I think they did, like you say, they did quite a good job of OMAC, though it didn't last very long. They've kind of used a lot of Kirby's DC created characters already in the New 52. The only one that really stands out is Kamandi, and I don't really know if I want them to use Kamandi. Amazing character, one of my favourite Jack Kirby creations, and what a great run of Kamandi comics he did. But do I want to see him introduced into the New 52? Not really. I don't want that, because they will ruin it. It doesn't matter who you put on it. I think they will just ruin it, and there's the whole nostalgia feel of Kirby's Kamandi, and to some extent all the rest of the stuff like OMAC, the Demon, the Sandman. They are there and they are part of an era, and I just don't think they translate without changing them so greatly that you don't really recognise them, and you're bound to go, well, this isn't very good. So that's really the best answer I can give you, Ryan. If you had to, bring it on, bring us Commandy, let's see what you can do with him. Jess S. We're still waiting for Jess to make some videos. I know she can do it. Someone buy her a webcam or a camera or something so she can do some videos, because I think she'd be really good. But she asked, if you could commission an art piece from a comic artist, we're talking a huge 15 by 15 wall canvas, who would you have do it, and what instructions would you give regarding what to paint? We kind of had a question like this from, funnily enough, Joshua Hayes. I don't know if it was last week or the week before, but that's fine. And I kind of gave my 4 artists that I'd want them to paint this 4-walled room. But if it was just like a kind of canvas, and I wanted to ask an artist to draw me something, again, it's these 2 guys that they come from a very kind of similar artistic direction in their comic book art, though their styles are miles apart, but they kind of do the same thing in that it's so detailed but in their own way, and that is one of my favourite artists, Brandon Graham, and also Shaky Kane. And either of the 2, I would love them to do me a 15 by 50 wall canvas, and I'd want them to do one of their kind of cityscapes with a bunch of, you know, weird characters, and their like kind of attention to detail that, you know, you have to look at everything to really appreciate it. You know, get up close and see little bits that they've snuck in little corners or hiding in the shadows. I would love that to happen. Stacey Gallagher asked, did you ever collect comic book figures? Not really. Not a big fan of the ones, you know, that you can move around and put little attachments and swords and guns and stuff on. And I'm scared to go down that line because the stuff that I'd like to actually collect are the kind of the statues rather than the figures. But I know they're expensive, and I know, like I say, if I go down that road, I'm heading towards Debtsville again. The nearest, well, I say at the moment, I've stopped getting them now. I don't really see them around anymore, but I used to collect these kind of little mini figures of Marvels. That was Magneto. You've got one of Daredevil there. Spider-Man with the black venom going all around it. Found that in a local kind of cheap Poundland type shop that it wasn't for £1, and I just bought about a dozen of them, and I've never seen them again, probably because they were at the end of a line, which is why they were so cheap. But yes, not really big on the figures, more like the statues, but I'd have to win the lottery to start on that. My final question came from my good Canadian buddy Costum Bromstar, Scott. Nothing to do with comics, but it's one of his big loves and passions as well, and that was a music based question. And it did get me listening to some music that I haven't listened to in years. His question was, did you ever get into the Jam Style Council Paul Weller? Now, for those people who don't know who those people were, or what groups and music styles they were, I'll put some pictures at the side of me while I'm talking about it. I did have to write some of this down because my memory, whatever. So the Jam. Gotta say, you had the whole, at the end of kind of like the 60s, early 70s, you had the whole mod and rockers kind of clash. You were either a mod or you were a rocker. And I have to say, if I'd have been older at the time, because I was only born in 71, only, I would probably have been a mod. The mods were very much about the music, but also about the fashion of the time, and that kind of, they were very stylish, and I would have preferred that rather than to be a greasy biker. Let's just put that on the table. But the Jam, I wasn't at the time, because they did have music on when I was very young. I didn't really like at the time, because it was a lot like punk. It came out at the same time as punk. But because of their style, their fashion sense, you know, they obviously weren't really accepted in the punk community. So I like to call them posh punk. But everyone, you know, if you don't know who the Jam are, you'll have heard a lot of their songs like Going Underground, Town Called Malice, That's Entertainment. They were like their big, huge hits. But some of my favourites, at least two of them, were always the Eton Rifles and Start. If you want, they're all on YouTube, just go and look for them. Classic music from this late 60s and early 70s. Now, Paul Weller then moved on from the Jam and he created the Style Council, and this really couldn't have been more different from what he was doing in the Jam. It was a strange kind of diversion in his musical career. Not saying it was bad, because when Scott posed this question, I went straight to look at the Style Council, because it is my era, the 80s, of music that I was listening to at the time, and I was just like, oh my god, I remember this, I remember this. But watching the videos was the funniest part, I have to say, because there are some strange old videos. Style Council were kind of northern soul. They kind of did a bit of jazz with a bit of pop sensibility on the top of it. But they had songs like Shout to the Top, You're the Best Thing, and just watch the video for Long Hot Summer. It's weird. It's very, there's a bromance basically going on with Paul Weller and his partner, musical partner at the time, Mike Tolbert. But that is just, I don't know where that video was going, but it was just so unlike anything, you know, that Paul Weller, or what you would expect him to actually do. Finally, with Paul Weller, I don't really know a lot of his music. It wasn't really, again, this is the 90s. I wasn't really into that style of music at the time, but obviously I know stuff like Wildwood and the beautiful You Do Something To Me. That's just a beautiful track, there's no getting around it, and he sings it just so well. But thank you, Scott, for kind of reintroducing to me music from my past, from my youth. I had a really fun few days looking through and listening to all that music. So like I say, go and check out some of the titles of those tracks. You won't be disappointed. It is really good music. And so that's all the questions this week. Thank you all who participated in last week's video. You've got the chance now to ask me a question. Put it in the comment section down below, along with your answer to my question that I posed to you at the top of this video. And next week, I'll answer your question instead. Until next week, thanks for watching, everyone. Bye bye.